Hello! Welcome to my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. My name is Stephanie, and this channel is where I share with you my works in progress, finished projects, things I'm cooking up, books I'm reading, funny things my kids may say. My hope is that as you watch this episode and the previous episodes that you find some inspiration along the way. This is episode 94. We are at the end of October, year 2022. Last episode I said it was year 2023. I'm not sure why, but I'm thinking why I said 2023 was because it was episode 93, and I think the number 3 was just on my mind. I'm not really quite sure, but oops. So it's the year 2022, at least for 2 and, a few more days, 2 months and a few more days. So I cannot believe actually that we're at the end of 2022. The year kind of flew by, and I feel like since the pandemic started, time has just been in this really strange way of passing by. Sometimes it feels really, really slow, and sometimes it feels like you blinked and weeks disappeared. I don't really know. I am at the tail end, hopefully tail end, of a really annoying cold. I've taken several COVID tests. They're all negative, and of course other illnesses can happen that are not COVID, and so this cold is just really annoying. So I apologize for clearing my throat, coughing. I'm going to, I think for the most part, try to edit out any coughing because I just think it's really annoying. For me personally, I mean, I can't tell you if it annoys you or not, but it annoys me. But honestly, I'm feeling so much better than I did earlier. There was like a week where I just felt awful. I couldn't talk. I could barely think. My eyes were kind of all gunky. Anyway, to just spare you some of those details, it was just not fun. And I'm sure my kids didn't mind that I couldn't talk for some time because that meant less nagging. But yeah, I am just kind of getting my voice back. Still coughing, but just not like mid-sentence, every sentence. In my mug today, I have a eucalyptus tea, and I think, going to probably not talk about every single project I have going on currently, because I have a lot of works in progress going on, and yeah. So there are things I want to talk about. There are projects I want to show you. But I probably just won't go through like every single one of them. I mean, some of the other ones are active also, but yeah. So I think that's where I'm going with this. Projects aside, I do have some things, some random other topics that have been on my mind that I want to share with you. And if you are new here, a big welcome. And just to kind of give you a rundown of how I do these episodes. In the beginning of the episodes, there's usually a vlog that captures some nature, cooking and baking, just from whenever the last time is that I recorded. And then I go into like an intro welcome, talk about life stuff, things on my mind, and then I go into finished projects, works in progress, and eats and reads, where I talk about maybe some things I've been cooking up and books that I'm reading. And yeah, that's generally how I run things here. Captions are included in all of my videos. You click on that CC button. I do provide links to things that I talk about in the description box below this video. You sometimes have to click show more, like there's an arrow. I do use Ravelry for my project pages, and those links are separate, and it's marked Ravelry project pages. I do talk about the majority of the details here on the episode that I would have in the Ravelry project pages, and that's just to provide some more context, and also for anyone that cannot or chooses not to access Ravelry, that you get the information in the videos here. And yeah, let's get started with some things that have been on my mind. Okay, I've popped a cough drop in my mouth, and I'm going to be knitting here, which I will share with you what I am knitting on in the works in progress section. But the first question I want to ask you might be one that seems silly, but I have a feeling that people sit on multiple ends of this question. The question is, do you make your bed like, fold down the covers or tuck in the sheets or whatever? Do you make your bed? And if you do you make your bed in the morning right when you wake up? Do you make it in the middle of the day? Do you make it right before you hop back into bed? Yeah, I'm curious. And if it's too personal of a question and you don't feel like answering it, just don't. You don't have to. I personally make my bed every morning as soon as I'm up. That's just what I do. I like to see a made bed. I feel like the day doesn't really start on the right foot if the bed's not made. I don't know, it seems silly, but it's the act of making that bed every morning. The kids, I would say 90% of the time, do not make their beds, so I just do it. It's not really a big deal, but I know I think they like getting into a bed that's made versus a bed that's messy, because then sometimes it can be hard to get into the bed when it's so messy. They sometimes have must be very exciting dreams where they're kicking and rolling around all over the place, because sometimes their bed sheets or like the flat sheet or the comforter or the blanket is just all over the place. Sometimes even on the floor. And if you're tired at the end of the day, sometimes the last thing you want to do is make your bed. You just want to get into your bed and under the covers. Well, it's kind of hard to do that if your covers are all over the place. Anyway, do you make your bed or do you not make your bed? That's my question for you. And again, you don't have to answer it. It's just for fun. Do you think it has to do with your personality if you make your bed or not? Does it say anything about you? I don't know. Next question, next topic. I was helping our 4th grader with some homework this morning before school. They're working on posters, and their posters are how to be a good citizen. Now, first let's talk about the definition of citizen. I feel like there are two. One has to do with like legal reasons and voting and things like that. If you're eligible to vote, if you're a citizen, or have legal status on whatever land you're inhabiting. And another definition is simply being an inhabitant of whatever land you're on. And do you think the word citizen comes with a level of responsibility? Like, I feel like even if we're not talking about the legal part of it, the politics part of it, I mean, everything has to do with politics, but even if we're not talking about like the voting part or things like that, I feel like being a citizen or an inhabitant of a land comes with responsibility. Responsibility of taking care of it, responsibility of making it inhabitable for current generations and future generations. There's a responsibility that comes, I think, with the word citizen. And we were talking about, their project, how to be a good citizen, and coming up with examples and phrases and how they wanted to make their poster. And it was a really good discussion and a good brain exercise for me too on what that means and how we play that role of being a citizen every day. If you feel up to it, you're welcome to join in on our conversation on how to be a good citizen and include your thoughts on what that means to you and maybe how you partake in being a good citizen or being a good steward of our earth, maybe, or maybe of your local community. I think it touches on things both individually and globally and everything in between. But yeah, it gave me a lot to think about. Okay, let's go into finished projects. Now that I got those things that are on my mind out, yeah, let's talk about finished projects. We'll first talk about the one that I'm wearing. This is the Heartwood Stripes sweater pullover by Tiffany Lynn. I tested this sweater pattern for Tiff in September. It was released, I think, middle or early October. And I showed it here in an episode last time, so about 2-ish weeks ago. But since there were 2 sweater patterns released around the same time, I wore one and then just showed this one. Let me back up a little so maybe you can see it better. Here it is. I gave you all the details about it last time, so if you're curious about details, go back to that episode. But I thought I would wear it today so that you can see it in action. I knit the size 2, which gives me about 3 to 4 inches of positive ease. Yeah, it's super comfy. I did knit an extra pattern repeat for the sleeves and for the body to make it a little bit longer. In hers, it's like, I think it hits probably right above the hip, maybe, above the hip bone. And I just wanted it longer. I knew I would get more wear out of it. So go back to the previous episode if you want to hear details on it. It comes in 10 sizes, I believe. Yeah, and I knit the second size. The other finished project, actually, you know what? This I finished over the summer, but I never showed it to you. It is a sewn finished project. It is a gigantic project bag. I don't even know if you can call it a project, maybe projects bag, plural. Yeah, it is enormous. There's a quilt block in the center. I found this really fun brown fabric that I don't know if it's supposed to be leaves, but it looks like stockinette to me. And I have drawstring on it, which in retrospect, don't really need a drawstring on a giant bag like this, but it still, you know, cinches up. And I have these 2 wooden ball beads on the end to keep the knots from slipping through the channel. And it's just kind of nice to hold in hand. And then also I probably would have used a sturdier interfacing. It has fusible fleece, but I think an even heavier weight one would have been better for such a gigantic bag. But what I'm using this for is all of my projects that I want to talk about in an episode. I just toss in here, or basically I put in a lot of my works in progress and then like finish, sorry to myself. I almost hit myself in the face with the ball. If you are new here, I don't do patterns or tutorials for the project bags I make. I just make them all from whatever out of my head. I don't really take notes. I just make them as I go, and it's really freeing and refreshing to do that. And I've been sewing since I was a little kid, and yeah, I just like doing whatever. There are tons of tutorials out there on YouTube and the internet, so if you're interested in sewing your own, I just recommend doing a search for that. I made another bag actually recently. So the other one I made over the summer. This one I made this past week. Isn't that fun? There's constellations and planets. And I had this mauvey, dusty pink moon fabric. I included some of the selvage edge. I think it says Dusk Till Dawn. That might be the name of the pattern, or the fabric pattern. I have a purple purple duck canvas on the bottom for the box bottom. And something happened where my rotary blade kind of, I don't know if it slipped or I just wasn't looking at what I was doing. And I accidentally cut through the fabric where I didn't want to. So, to save it, basically I had to mend it by using a very small zigzag stitch, essentially kind of like making buttonholes, to stitch over where I cut, where I didn't want to cut, to patch up that slit. And of course it's symmetrical because I think my pieces were together when I accidentally did it. So I have symmetrical mended spots on this bag. And then inside is just white cotton. And I think it was actually like muslin fabric. And then it was too thin. So then I put lightweight fusible interfacing on that too. And fusible fleece on the outside fabric. So it's pretty sturdy. And I have a pocket inside. But it's still soft enough to roll over the edges, which is what I like to do when I'm working out of them. But yeah, I really like it. I think it's so nice. It's a nice size, and I have a project in mind to go in this later, but not yet. So you'll see it again at some point. The next finished project I'd like to share with you is Pearl Soho's bandana cowl. It is a free pattern. They're doing a knit along with it right now. There are some pretty great prizes. I would go to their website to look at it. I'll link to it in the description box below this video. I believe the knit along runs through, I don't know if it's through all of November or part of November, so check their website for the details. You do not have to use their yarn for this pattern, you just have to use the pattern. It's a free pattern. Their sample uses Plenty, which is 100% extra fine merino. It comes in 139 yards for 100 grams, which is an Aran weight yarn. It's super soft. You knit the cowl up on US 10s, which is, US 10 is a what? 6mm needle. So it goes pretty quick. I've knit two already, one in a red and one in like a dark tealy green. And this one, I followed their striped pattern. They actually have a bunch of different versions in here. There's a one color version, color block. I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Breton? Breton stripe? B-R-E-T-O-N. Breton stripe, and a transitional stripe version and a monogram version. So this is the Breton stripe. And I knit this one using German short rows. The pattern's written for German short rows and wrap and turns, whichever one you want to use, and I've done both, and they're both pretty easy, and I don't see any difference actually in how it turns out at all. I'll put this on for you. I love how wearable it is. There's just one size, it's very stretchy, and it just sits so nicely. There's there's really nice shaping involved, and it just hugs the back of your neck still without getting too bunchy, and it drapes. It drapes nicely in the front. So yeah, I really, really like it. This one is not for me either. It's going to a family member for Christmas, but yeah, I think they'll really like it. It's so easy to wear. It does use up 100 grams of this Plenty yarn, so just beware. I use two colors here, so I do have leftovers of each to make another one. I can just do like the reverse, but if you're making like a single color one, it does use up the whole skein. I think I had maybe a couple grams left over, but that's only because my cake started at like probably 103 or 105 grams, but I do use up the full 100 grams. Just an FYI, and if your gauge is different, then you know that'll affect it too. But yeah, I just use the needles called for in the pattern, and I just knit it exactly as pattern. And it is so nice. I really like it. I think the nice thing about a cowl is it doesn't fall off like a shawl might. You don't need a shawl pin. It sits easily under a jacket or on top of a jacket, and I just think it's a really nice gift because anybody can wear it. And yeah, it's good for a lot of seasons too. I feel like sometimes if it's like a bulkier shawl or something, you know, you might not wear it in the spring, but if it's a cowl like this, you can really throw on anytime you need a little bit of cozy around your neck. I forgot to mention the colors I used for this one. Let's even find the tag. The light blue is Forget Me Not Blue. This is what I have left to make the next one. And then the gray is Ash Gray. This is what I have remaining. I would say the ash gray is a pretty neutral gray. It doesn't really seem to lean warm or cool. It's just a very neutral light gray. And forget-me-not blue, I would say, is like a almost like a baby blue when you think of baby blues. I don't know if it would go pastel. Maybe not as light as pastel, but yeah, it's a really nice blue. Okay, let's go into socks. I have 2 pairs of socks to share with you. I'm knitting both of them with the Falling Leaves Sock Knit Along hosted by Denise of Earth Tones Girl. I'll put up the hashtag here on the screen. If you follow that on Instagram, you'll see all these beautiful socks that everybody is knitting up. And then since it's October, Mars of Hey Brownberry and Denise of Earth Tones Girl, they host a Maker Minutes series throughout October as part of Socktober. And there's a hashtag for that as well. I'll put that also up on the screen. And yeah, let me show you the socks. So in this one, in this pumpkin themed bag, I have my High Desert socks by Lindsay Fowler of Larkspur Knits. I'm using the Farmer's Daughter Fibers Sock Squad sock set from October. Here is the tag on the screen. This yarn base is a 75-25 superwash merino nylon blend. The Sock Squad like annual subscription, you get a monthly sock set each month that you don't know what it's going to be. She does rotate through 3 bases, and this is one of them. And here is the mini that comes with it, or came with this month. It's a very caramely brown. I love this color. I guess you can kind of tell I like this color. My sweater is a very similar color. And I'll show you the progress on my socks. Oh, here's the main color. It's a variegated, kind of a cream base with orange, mostly orange and some yellow. And some very subtle speckling. Again, I knit my socks 2 at a time in tandem on their own needles. Here are my socks. So I knit a slightly longer cuff than the pattern calls for. And I'm just using 2 colors instead of 3. So it's all held together for a DK weight. And I'm using size 3, US 3 or 3.25 millimeter needles, Chalgu 9-inch. And then I knit a heel flap and gusset, a slip stitch heel flap and gusset, which I haven't done in a long time. And when I got to those, I switched to double pointed needles. And then when I pick up to do the gusset, so while I'm working the heel flap, my 9-inch needles are holding the instep stitches, so the top half of the stitches, while I'm working the bottom half. And then I'll work my heel turn, and then to get to the other side where I need to be, I'll knit those back on to my 9-inch and off of the DPN, or double pointed needle. So I finished the gusset on both of them, and I'll just be starting the foot. Here they are again. Oh, I love how they're turning out. I also knit my leg a little bit longer, I think. I'm not sure if they're long enough to peek out of my fall boots. They might be. The thing with ribbing is they always stretch. So when they stretch, you end up losing some of the length to the stretching out for the width. So I won't really know, I think, until I put them on. But I think I'm knitting them to similar lengths as some of the other ones that I've knit before. I've knit probably over a dozen variations of this pattern. I really like it. They're really comfy. And these will probably be done by the time I'm back here next, which will, tangling here, which will be probably in 2 weeks. Let me untangle here. So I separated my main color into 2 cakes, and then I'm pulling from the inside and outside. So it does get a little bit messy. This pattern comes in many sizes. Child small to adult large. So approximately a US shoe size of a US child size 10 up to a size 14 men's. And then she does give you the breakdown for approximately how much main color and contrast color that you might need for each of the sizes. And I am knitting the 5th size out of 7 this time. So sometimes I knit the adult extra small and sometimes I knit the adult small. Sometimes it just depends on my mood or who's going to be wearing it, but also on the yarns that I'm holding double. So when I'm holding this light fingering weight yarn together, I feel like it's a pretty true DK weight, but if I'm holding a yarn that's not the 463 yards for 100 grams, like maybe it's 420 or even 400, then I feel like it's a closer to worsted weight gauge, which results in a different fabric. So that's that one. My other pair of socks are using the Fallen Leaves yarn, and that's a collaboration between Michelle of Woolens and Nosh and Denise of Earth Tones Girl. Here's the tag with Denise's logo. It's a 90% superwash tardy, 10% nylon 3-ply, 411 yards for 100 grams. There's Michelle's logo and the info on the back of the tag. And I showed you my the start of them last time. I think I just done the cuffs maybe? I haven't made a ton of progress on them, but here they are. So I have the cuffs done. I did a pretty long cuff. I think maybe 24 rounds. And then I've just started the leg. And I'm knitting these ones on US 1.5 or 2.5 millimeter. I find this yarn very round. And I feel like my fabric is a little bit too dense on the US 1. But it's really nice on the US 1.5. And yeah, I caked my yarn up into 2 balls. And I think I talked about this last episode already. Not a lot has changed on these ones, but I love them. These are the socks that I like to keep in the car for whenever I'm waiting for anything. The kids have activities after school or whatever, so sometimes it doesn't make sense to run an errand or to go home or whatever, so I sit and I knit. Okay, let's go into sweaters. I'm going to show you 2 sweaters that I have in progress. This one is a test for Samantha Guerin. It is the Fall Frolic sweater. It's a fingering weight sweater that I am knitting in Pearl Soho's linen quill. Oh, I love this so much. It is so lightweight, and I just love how the colors are coming together. In her pattern, she uses 1 main color and then 1 contrast color, but I wanted to see what I could do with multiple contrast colors. So, my main color is Peach Stone. So linen quill is 50% fine Highland wool, 35% alpaca, 15% linen. It's at 439 yards for 100 grams. It is not superwash yarn. And because of the fiber content, it ends up with this very heathered look that I just love. And this Peach Stone color, I feel like is very, I don't know what the word is, intricate, nuanced. It changes by the light. I feel like sometimes it reads warmer and sometimes it reads cooler, but it's kind of got like a gray, brown, purple undertone to it. And if you look at it closely, which I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there's a lot of variation in colors within the yarn. So I have in the yoke honey pink, turmeric yellow, peony pink, rosewood pink. And last time I had split for the sleeves, but I didn't knit the sleeves yet. So now I have 2 sleeves. And I have raw sienna, dark iris, and chestnut red. Isn't that so fun? So I have 8 colors total of linen quill represented in here. I have a progress keeper in the front that I made last year. It has a pumpkin polymer clay charm. perfect for the season. Hope it's focusing. But yeah, so after I finished one skein in the body, I just jumped to do the sleeves. And once I finish the sleeves, then I'm back onto the body. And then I'll just knit it until that's done. So this test knit is due middle of November. So when I come back on here to chat, it'll probably be, well, I think this will be done because it'll be probably like early or middle of November that I'm back here. So I won't talk about it again until the pattern releases. So depending on when I'm back on here, I could be wearing it next time or not. We'll see. But I'm really excited about it. It feels so good. I think today or tomorrow I'm going to attach like an extender cord on the body so I can just try it on for fit and just kind of see where I'm at. So yeah, I'm using interchangeable needles, and one benefit is that I don't have to put it on like waste yarn or scrap yarn in order to try it on. I can, there's these like extender cords where the two ends, or not extender cord, extender piece that can attach to two ends of the interchangeable cords. So I can basically turn like a 32-inch into 60 or whatever, depending on when I'm attaching it to another cord. And then it's big enough to try on without potentially losing stitches. So yeah, I'm excited to do that. Okay, last work in progress I'm going to share with you today is another sweater. I had it cast on in the previous episode, but just didn't get to it. This is a DRK Everyday Sweater by Andrea Mowry. It is a sport weight sweater, and I've been wanting to cast this on as like a very basic, like a nice basic sweater to have in my wardrobe, but I was having trouble with the sport weight part of the pattern. Like, I know I could always change it out if I wanted to and do some math, but it's written for sport weight, and I rarely use the same yarn called for in a pattern just because of different reasons. But I found one that I think will be my new go-to sport weight yarn. Now I feel like it's a little early to say that since I haven't finished the garment yet, so I haven't blocked it to wear it or whatever, but so far I really like it. This is Pearl Soho's Good Wool. 100% Andean Highland wool. It's not superwash, it's very heathered, comes in lots of colors, and a price point that that I think would be manageable for making sweaters in. I'm going to pull it up just so I can find the price point for you. Okay, $16 US for 100 grams. And it often goes on sale. Pearl Soho often puts a lot of their yarns on sale, either all of them or like certain ones. They'll showcase different ones at different times. And just for transparency, I did get yarn support for this project. Thank you, Pearl Soho. And this is one of their new colors. It's called Fresh Loganberry. And I just really like it. Let me show you my swatch. So here's my swatch of it. I really like the fabric that came out. So you might be wondering what these little holes are. I do that to indicate the needle size that I use in US size. So I just do a yarn over and knit two together. So I still end up with the same number of stitches across, but I have these little eyelets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I used a US 5 needle. I also attach my yarn label or ball band to it, and I just write on there, you know, what my needle size was, if it was metal or wood, because that can affect gauge, and then what my final gauge was. So my gauge did vary slightly from the pattern, but I liked my fabric, so I didn't want to go up a needle size. And what I think might happen is I'll end up with a finished size that's between size 1 and 2. So my gauge was slightly tighter, but that may change after I like actually block it. We'll see, because a garment is going to be heavier and kind of hang different than a square swatch. So we'll see. The sizing goes from a 34-inch chest circumference to a 66-inch, and I cast on size 2, which is the 38-inch, which would give me about 6 inches of positive ease. and the recommended ease for the pattern is 2 to 4. So I think I'm going to end up somewhere in between 34 and 38, which would then fall closer to the 4 inches of positive ease. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to show you where I'm at. Dun, 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 dun. I have separated for sleeves, and I did actually my neckband a little bit differently. I've been really liking these fold over collars for their stability, the stretchiness, the tidiness, and so that's what I did. When I was looking through Ravelry at other project pages, some people's neckbands looked really wide. I don't know if it's from stretching out or not knitting as much of the ribbing, but from Andrea Mowry's, like, not, do you call it stock images, sample images? Anyway, the images on her project page or her pattern page, her neck comes up higher and is quite a bit of ribbing compared to some other projects that I saw. So it could be personal choice, it could be something else, I don't really know, but I wanted to do double the ribbing, and then I just knit it to the cast on edge. And I still find it super stretchy, but I think it's not going to stretch out as much, maybe. I think there's just more stability to it. I've not tried it on yet, so I'm going to do that probably today as well. And then since I have them on interchangeable needles, again, I can just unscrew out the needle, attach my connecting cable thing, attach another cord so it's longer, and then I can try on the sweater. I have the sleeve stitches on the 16-inch cables with the stoppers. And yeah, I really like how the fabric is knitting up. It is really soft. I would say it's not like toothy woolly wool, but it's definitely not like soft and slippery like superwash merino. I feel no prickle. Like no prickle on my neck. And I do think it's like drier in hand when you're knitting. But yeah, I really like it. This might be my go-to sport weight yarn. Let me pull up the colors so you can see them on their Pearl Soho's website. Okay, here they are. Hopefully it's focusing. Isn't that so pretty? So many colors. I think this yarn could be really good for color work too. Thinking. Always thinking. Alright, I think that's it for all the projects. We are on to the Eats and Reads section. I showed a bunch of stuff that I had been cooking and baking, I think, in the vlog part. And one of them is from this book, Mooncakes and Milk Bread by Kristina Cho. And I really like this cookbook. Lots of fun, nostalgic bakes in here. Things that I may not always have made before, but maybe my mom had, or brings me memories of dim sum or different bakeries in Taiwan. And yeah, I really like it. I've done a few things from here, but one that was in the beginning of the vlog was the milk bread with the corn on it. The recipe in here is miso corn buns, and I didn't have miso, and I didn't have white sesame seeds, but I did the rest of it. I'm going to try to show it to you without showing the recipe. So there's her picture. But they're so good. They're kind of savory. They're like savory little pillows. So good. And I think this book is the one that my brothers and I all got each other for Christmas last year, and we've all been baking through it and enjoying it and sharing pictures and reviews on how things went, so it's been super fun. I finished the Isabel Allende book that I was reading last time that I just started, The Soul of a Woman. It wasn't too thick of a book, and I finished it and it was really good. I don't really have anything else to add to it since what I said last time about how much I love Isabel Allende's work and her writing style. I recommend you read it if you want to. She talks about a lot of important life topics. She doesn't shy away from politics. She doesn't shy away from just telling it like it is. I feel like there is some like content warning or trigger warning type of stuff in it, but maybe like check out the book on Goodreads or something to see if it's a book that you think you'd be okay with reading or not. I think that is it for me today. It's a really short section for the eats and reads, not because I haven't been eating. I've been eating and baking lots of things, but because my throat, I don't think has talked this much for like probably 2 weeks. And so I'm going to rest it now, have more hot tea, do some knitting, get some chores done. But I hope you're doing okay. I feel like, as usual, there's a lot going on in the world that's no good. And I think we need to intentionally find the things that bring us joy in our everyday lives. Whether it seems small or big or whatever it is, I think it's always important. And I think we shouldn't only do those things in times of need. Like, I think we should always do it. I'm a big proponent of like preventative, or like, not even preventative, general, always well-being care type of stuff. Things that are sustainable and things that you should be doing, or not should, but things that you can be doing every day to take care of yourself. Because I think it builds up, right? So if you continue doing certain things every day, it changes your baseline maybe. It changes like how you can react to things, how you can adapt to things. Anyway, I think I have more to say about that, but I think my body is telling me that this is good. This is a good place to stop. So I hope you are doing well. I hope you are taking care of yourselves and your neighbors and your loved ones, and I will talk to you next time. Cheers to being creative, and I'll talk to you later.